It's week 8 of the 5 to 10k program, and this is our last set of coaching notes. Next week is week 9 when we do our full 10k run, and by then you've really got all the theory about running that you need. A full toolbox, if you will. Okay, so this week I want to just go over the other 2 runs that you're doing this week, because the main part of this week's session is the content of the Science of Ultra episode, which is all about high intensity interval training, or HIIT training. So before we get into that, so in your other 2 weeks, the other 2 runs in the last few weeks, you've been starting to do up-tempo runs, and hopefully they should be starting to get a bit easier. You should certainly find that you're going to be able to maintain that up-tempo level of effort for longer and a bit further. So the easy run this week is 7 kilometres. So as before, find a nice flat route, take it at a conversational pace. Level of effort about 5, maybe 6 out of 10, I would say. Remember, you get adaptation by doing easy pace, low heart rate workouts, or by using high intensity, high effort training sessions. And we talk a lot more about that in the Martin Gimbel podcast about HIIT. The key thing that I keep repeating in these coaching notes week to week is that the mediocrity of the middle just does nothing. Working at a middle level of effort or cruising pace and does very little in terms of adaptation. It'll do something, but either very low effort or very high effort, you'll get the results much quicker. We've got some strength and conditioning exercises this week, and they're aimed at our feet and ankles. And in my experience, it's the feet, the ankles and the lower legs that are the places that tend to give you the most trouble. And people that have knee pain, it tends to be the quads that are tight, that's pulling the knee cap down into the knee joint. But the actual upper leg itself doesn't really give many issues at all. It's mostly the feet, ankles, and the lower leg, the calves, and so on. So you can revisit the exercises that we did way back in week 1, or you can work out your own routine. Just use your imagination and work out your own way of articulating your ankle while you're doing normal day-to-day activities. If you do start to get problems in your feet in particular, and people, there's a tendency, if people get sore feet, they say, oh, I've got plantar fasciitis or PF, and if you go to your GP, they'll say, oh, you've got plantar fasciitis. First time that I got sore feet, went to my GP, oh, plantar fasciitis. It is a particular condition, but it's a condition that that kind of serious athletes get. You know, recreational runners don't get, I was going to say, don't get plantar fasciitis. It's possible that they can get it, but in practice, most people, when they get, they're presented with something that's sore feet, they say it's plantar fasciitis, but it can be a whole myriad of range of problems. Your feet, if you look at the anatomy, the feet is an incredibly complex structure. If you think about it, it's got to hold your body up all the time, and it's got to propel you forward. It's got to stop you moving, falling from side to side. It's incredibly complex, and just to say that there's only one condition that can give you sore feet, it's to me, as a non-medical person, but somebody that has got quite a lot of experience these days, it really is a misnomer. There's so many problems that you can have. Anyway, a good starting point, if you do have discomfort in the sole of your feet, is just to get a golf ball or something like that, anything that's hard, put it on the floor, take your shoe off and run your foot back and forward over it. It gives it a really good massage. That's a good one. You can also use a small, kind of, about half a litre bottle of water, and you can even put that in the freezer, so it becomes hard and cold. The cold does a lot of good. It eases any discomfort that you've got, but the hard surface, just by rolling your foot back and forward, will also give you a massage. The benefit that you have with the golf ball is that because it's spherical, you can really get that to press in on problem areas, little pinpoints where you're having a problem, whereas a bottle of water or what do you call it, a foam roller, that's the word, and you would get there. A foam roller is flat and it spreads the pressure over a wider area. Okay, so that's basically us. We want to get on to this podcast, high intensity interval training, because it really is a very interesting area, and it's really quite an important area for people like us who are trying to improve to be better runners. So there is a short video this week, only one of them, and Sage Kennedy isn't there for a change. It's Martin Gabala, who has done a lot of research into HIIT. His video only lasts a minute and a half, and it really just gives you an overview. It's intended for people who have heard the term HIIT, who don't know anything about it. So 1.5 minutes, here's what it is, here's what it can do, but it doesn't go into any detail about it. So what is high intensity interval training? Well, we know about interval training. That's where you work at a certain level of effort, and then you increase it for a short period, and then you come back down again and run along again, increase your level of effort and bring it back down again. So some clubs who do regular training, our club doesn't do training as such. We just go for runs, don't we? But clubs that do training, then they have an exercise called fartlek, which is I think it's Swedish for speed play, and that's exactly what it is. You're kind of running around the track or a defined area, and you'll maybe go for 30 seconds at your cruising pace, and then you'll up that for 20 or 30 seconds, then come back down again, and you can do that for 10 minutes or so. Have a bit of a rest, recovery period, then off you go and you'll do it again, and you maybe do that on and off for about an hour in a session, and that really does help. High intensity interval training takes that to an extreme. What the researchers discovered was they were basically, just to give you a bit of background, they were basically trying to address a problem where people don't do exercise because it takes too much time. They don't have time in their busy day, to go out for a run for 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. I'm never convinced by that, and that's as somebody who brought up who was the father of 4 kids, but my wife did most of the bringing up. But I came home from work and I had 4 kids, and weekends I've got 4 kids, but somehow still managed to build in time to lose weight and get fit again. So they were looking for a way that we could help people in that position to get the benefit of exercise without having to spend what they perceived as excessively long periods of time doing it. And they discovered, cutting a long story short, that you only really need to do about 5 minutes worth of exercise over the whole week, and you get the same benefits as you do if you're doing 3 30-minute runs over that week. So 5 minutes against an hour and a half. What's not to like? But of course the devil's in the detail. What you have, it's not really doesn't just take 5 minutes. The 5 minutes is basically 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes 3 times a week. But you need to build up to that 1.5 to 2 minutes. You still need to do your warm-up. You still need to do a little bit of recovery afterwards. However, the principle still stands. Once you've done your warm-up, then what they get you to do is absolutely all-out effort. You cannot put any more effort in than this. This is absolutely 100%. And you'll do that for 30 to 40 seconds. Then you'll back off. Get your breath back, let your heart rate come down slightly, but only from kind of 90 to 100% of your maximum down to 80 to 90%. Then you go again, and you do that 3 or 4 times, and that's why it only takes you a couple of minutes. Actual high intensity work, although the whole session might still take you 15-20 minutes. Okay, so that's what HIIT is. It's characterised by a level of effort used during the periods of increased activity and all-out effort, but sustained only for very short periods. If you remember last week, week 7, Holly from the Run Experience was talking about hill reps. Now, my hill reps, I say 80% effort is adequate. Holly was saying, no, it has to be 100% all out, go as hard as you possibly can. And I tend to admit that when I'm doing hill reps, I do as hard as I possibly can. But as a coach, I don't want other people to do that. Because when you're coaching, people are in the early stages of using these techniques. And if you get people to go all out from the very beginning, they're going to overload their musculoskeletal system. They're overloading their muscles and their joints, and they're much more likely to get an injury. Like everything in running, the stuff that we've learned throughout this program, you need to build up gradually, yet let your body adapt. And once you've done that, then yes, absolutely, you can really go for it. So I guess the big question about HIIT is, how often should I do it, and how long should my intervals be? So Martin has a suggested workout, and that's a 2-minute warm-up. Personally, I question how much and how effective a warm-up of only 2 minutes is going to be. A dynamic warm-up maybe takes 2 or 3 minutes. But then, after your dynamic warm-up, then you're going to go out on your run at a gentle pace, and then gradually warm up over the first 3, 4, 500 metres. I certainly wouldn't say to anybody, do a dynamic warm-up and then do an all-out effort, that goes straight into hill reps, and you're asking for trouble there. But we have to accept that this was the regime that the researchers followed. So 2 minutes warm-up, followed by 3 sets of 20 or 3 stints of 20 seconds high intensity with 60 second recovery in between, and then a 3-minute cool down. And yes, I can see that you can cool down within 3 minutes. Your heart rate comes back down again. So their total workout was 10 minutes. Okay. So the evidence is that if you compare that to 150 minutes of low intensity activity, you get the same overall benefits. Now 150 minutes of activity is the amount recommended by governments across the world. However, and it's a big however, Martin goes on to say that HIIT is a great technique, but you can't just do the 10-minute workouts and nothing else. This doesn't help to build endurance, and it's not going to help you to build the ability to run hills. If all you're looking for is to get your body to adapt, to react to this high effort, high intensity demand that you're putting onto it, then HIIT certainly works. But as let's call ourselves athletes, I still don't consider myself an athlete after all these years. Let's call ourselves athletes. If as athletes we want to be able to run 10 kilometres doing HIIT for 10 minutes 3 times a week, that's not going to help us run 10k. So where we can get benefit from the principles of HIIT is to think about our high intensity level of effort and pace when we are doing speed work. So our sprint effort and pace compared to our cruising pace and level of effort, it's probably 2 or 3 times the intensity of effort. So that in itself is high intensity, intense interval training. That is HIIT. How do we gauge that? Well, we know about your perceived level of effort, your RPE scale. Are you working at a 6 out of 10? Are you working at a 7 or an 8 or a 9? You want to be going at a 10 out of 10. You want to be doing your hill reps at 10 out of 10. Your up tempo, that's in the past. You're doing full tempo. In fact, you're going beyond tempo. You're going to be running, sprinting. Kind of like at the end of a run when we're doing strides. We have been doing these at 8 out of 10. You would be doing that at 10 out of 10. So an ordinary workout that we would have where we might do some hill reps, or we might want to do some normal running, or we might to do some high intensity normal, in other words not hill running, or we can think about strides at the end of our run. So by building our level of effort to a real high intensity, then even though we're only doing that for, what did he say, 3 times 20 seconds, that will give us a benefit. So strides are a great example of that. You come to the end of your run and we're going to do 200 or 300 metres, have 3 reps, 20 seconds, which is going to be 100, 120 metres for most of us. Do that, have a bit of recovery, and then do another one, another bit of recovery, and do it again. So if that's going to take you 6, 7, 8 minutes, that's a kilometre that you're doing. So would you really do that as strides, or would you do that in the middle of the run? I think you would do it in the middle of the run. You would do, maybe if it was a 5k run, you would have a couple of k's, warm up, going at cruising pace, then have a kilometre of high intensity stuff. Your 3 at 20 seconds with a minute in between to recover, and then back off for kilometre 4, and then kilometre 5 is getting towards the end of your run. So either or any of these elements, either hill reps built in, so run for a couple of kilometres, do hill rep session for that same thing, 3 times 20 seconds, having 60 seconds recover when you're coming back down the hill, getting your breath back, then off you go again, do that 3 times, then do another couple of kilometres at the end of it. That's going to give you adaptation on top of the low intensity run. So I can almost hear you saying, but week 1 we did a 5k run and we ran a bit and then we did hill reps and then we ran back to the car park. Week 2, week 3, week 4 we ran a bit and then we did hill reps, then we ran back to the car park. Wasn't that high intensity interval training? And yes, it was. See, we've already been doing HIIT even though we didn't know that we were doing HIIT. So isn't that fantastic? So Martin takes us through the research side of it, as well as the what it's all about and some of the practicalities of it. So improvements, it does say, can happen very, very quickly. One session for an untrained athlete, an untrained athlete, contradiction in terms. If you just take somebody off the street and get them to do one session of HIIT, within 24 hours there's going to be measurable changes in their body. That can also apply to recreational athletes, recreational runners like ourselves, who don't actually do an awful lot of or any speed work. So we can, if all we've been doing is going to park run and jogging round, and we want to improve our park run time, then at the end of park run maybe we want to do a few bits of HIIT, either running up a hill, or you get over the finish line and you get your token scanned, then you just carry on, but you do a few bursts over a kilometre or whatever, then you can do it. So short intervals, they do give you really good rapid adaptation, but as we've seen in previous weeks, longer intervals at lower but still increased activity, the up tempo that we've been talking about and doing from I think about week 6, they're better for building cardio capability. So it's a reasonable conclusion that for better trained athletes, the real solution is to include both types of training in our week. So we do some longer distance with bits of up tempo in it, and if you run in a hilly area like Falkland Estate, running on the flat and then going up some of the inclines, there you go, there's your increased activity, there's your up tempo level of effort. It's built into your run. If you want to build in some hill reps or do strides at the end or whatever, but the key I think is to do all of these and spread them throughout your week's training. So raising capability in short, high intensity activity results in improvements across all kinds of activity. That is the conclusion of Martin Gambala. Mixing it up also gives you experience of different levels of intensity, so you become better able to cope with different conditions. So for example, to be able to sustain speed uphill. And in the 10k program, if we've learned anything, it's this principle of running uphill will make you a better runner. Sustaining your level of effort running uphill is going to make you a better runner. Becoming a better runner means that you'll be able to sustain your level of effort uphill. It's a virtuous cycle, isn't it? We improve to get better. We get better, therefore we improve. And the more we improve, the better we become. The better we become, the more we're going to improve. So there we are. That's the end of your final set of coaching notes. It's a good run this week. We're going to go up to the far end of Falkland Estate. We're going to be doing 9 kilometres, would you believe? We're almost reaching our 10k. we'll be doing that next week. We'll run our first 10k next week. This week's one, it's not as hilly as last week when we went up to the Findlebury monument, but there's still hills involved in it. In fact, one of them is a real challenge. So I won't tell you any more about that. But if you look at not your coaching notes, your PDF document, the route is in there as always, and the elevation profile is in there as always. So take a look at the elevation profile, superimpose that mentally onto the map, look at the lines on the map. Each one of these lines shows you where you're going up or down 10 metres. You can see the closer together the lines are, the steeper it's going to be. So pick these things out, look on the map for waypoints that you can pick out. I'll give you a clue. We'll be going past the top of Kilgour Crags. We're not going down Kilgour Crags, we're not running up it, but we are going past the clearing at the top of Kilgour Crags. We'll take that as a waypoint on the map. Look for that on the map and see what happens if instead of going down the crags you carry straight on. Just have a look at that on the map, the elevation profile, and that will prepare you for what is about to come. Okay, there we go. I hope you've enjoyed these coaching notes. I hope you've got a real benefit from them. If there has been anything that I've gone through in the last 8 weeks which you didn't understand, which you thought I didn't explain very well, something that I needed to go into a little bit more in depth, or something that I went too far I went into too deeply, have a word with me or send me an email and let me know that. I always welcome constructive feedback. Okay, that's it for your coaching notes. We'll see you out there for the practical session. Okay, best of luck.